Chris Trickle was an up-and-coming NASCAR hopeful in the early 1990s. He was dominating in various late model series, while his uncle Dick Trickle was enhancing the family name by racing in the Cup Series. It seemed that Chris's NASCAR dream would be realized, but it seemed to be snatched by him randomly on February 9, 1997. While Trickle was driving on an overpass near the Las Vegas Strip, he was caught up in a drive-by shooting. It wouldn't be for another year, but Chris would pass away due to injuries in the shooting. No one knew why, but Chris's life was taken from him at just 25 years old. Chris Trickle was born on May 30th, 1972 in Las Vegas, Nevada. He began racing motorcycles at age 8, and his parents, Chuck and Barbara, discovered he was pretty good at it. Chuck was able to help out with Chris's racing effort, as he was a highly skilled mechanic and a pretty well-accomplished off-road racer. By 15, Chris was racing more than just local tracks. He started racing national touring races. In 1993, at just 20 years old, he moved up to the Southern California Sportsman Series, which raced at the Bull Ring, a short track owned by Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This was his first real stab in a race car, and he did not disappoint. In only 23 races, Chris had 12 top 10s, 14 poles, and 10 wins. A pretty incredible stat line. Even more wild were his 1994 stats. 29 races, 18 top 10s, 20 poles, and 8 wins. I can't find too many details of his early racing days, but just from these statistics, he clearly had a ton of speed. But he made a lot of mistakes that cost him a lot of good results. He was young and inexperienced, but had crazy talent. He dipped his toes into NASCAR, racing occasionally in the Featherlight Series for Star Nursery. He made a jump to ARCA in 1994 because at the time ARCA came to the Bull Ring. He impressed at his home track, starting 4th and finishing 4th in his ARCA debut. The next year, his inexperience continued to show. In the Featherlight Southwest Tour, he totaled a car at Mesa Marin, forcing him to miss 4 races. In 1996, he broke through and won at none other than the Las Vegas Bull Ring. 1996 was a big year. He made his first ever 1.5-mile start at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the ARCA Series and finished a respectable 11th place. He entered 2 truck races at the very end of the year, both entries prepared by himself and his father. They didn't make the field either time, but it was a valuable experience for what was on the horizon in 1997. After an amazing start to the Featherlight Series, opening the season with 2 top 5s, he was slated to race full-time in the Truck Series. This was by far the biggest opportunity in his racing career. Unfortunately, this never came to fruition for Chris. On the night of February 9th, 1997, Chris went out with his girlfriend Jennifer for a meal. While returning home, Chris got a call from one of his best friends, Greg, who wanted to play a round of tennis. Chris accepted and rushed home to drop off his girlfriend, changed his clothes, and get ready for a night out. Around 9 p.m., he was headed to the tennis court on Blue Diamond Road just south of the Vegas Strip. While driving on a dark overpass, a car pulled up beside Chris's convertible and opened fire. Chris's car drove off the road and into a sign, and when emergency services arrived, they discovered a bullet hit him right between the eyes. Chris was alive, but in a coma and in critical condition. He underwent many major surgeries and battled pneumonia, barely clinging to life. However, in November of 1997, about 10 months after the shooting, the family had a glimmer of hope. His father recalls him waking and audibly telling his girlfriend Jennifer, "I love you," in a muffled voice over the phone. Chuck showed Chris pictures of Brett Favre and Dan Marino, asking which player is your favorite. Chris would nod in the direction of Marino, which was indeed his favorite player. He was aware and conscious, at least in some capacity. The Trickle family and those close to him believed that he knew fully what was going on, although he couldn't communicate it or move any part of his body. During this time, Chris's condition improved so much that he returned home, but he needed 24/7 care and treatment from his family. They purchased a handicap-accessible van so they could take Chris out with the family to movies, out to dinner nights, and other normal family activities. His mother recalled, "He was very strong, still, and that's what kept him alive for so long. We knew we weren't going to have him back the way he was. We knew that. But we had something. We had him at home, comfortable." Unfortunately, in late March of 1998, Chris was rushed to the ER after having breathing issues. This was a common issue with Chris, as his mother and girlfriend had suctioned his lungs many times, but this time it was much more serious. On March 25th, 1998, Chris Trickle passed away after going into cardiac arrest. The Trickle family throughout Chris's recovery slowly started to lose interest in who committed the crime and decided to focus their efforts on his recovery. But this entire time, for the past 409 days, police had been investigating the crime. But not one lead or shred of evidence came to light. There were no witnesses and no surveillance footage. The police had nothing to work with. But it really didn't matter in terms of getting justice for the Trickle family. At this time, there was a law in Nevada that prohibited murder prosecutions in cases where the victim died more than a year and a day after the incident occurred. So this seems strange today, but was a common law back in the day. This is because during the creation of this law in England in the 13th century, it was difficult to determine the cause of death after a long time. The law assumes that after a year and a day, the death was caused by something else. Once again, in the 13th century, this made sense. Back then, they didn't have the means to keep someone in Chris's situation alive. However, by 1998, this was clearly outdated. It was obvious that Chris died due to complications suffered in the accident. Chuck and Barbara pushed for the law to be changed, and the Nevada governor signed a bill in March of 1999 removing the time limit on prosecution for murder charges. The bill would be dubbed the Chris Trickle Bill, and several other states around the country followed suit. The Las Vegas PD came up with two possible explanations for the murder. It was some type of road rage incident, or just a random thrill kill. But that was it, since Chris had no known enemies and had never found himself in trouble before. Regardless, the police had no leads, and quickly it was evident the case would turn cold. The case was featured twice on America's Most Wanted, and a $35,000 reward was offered for any information. After these features, 4 people contacted the Trickle family confessing to the crime. Clearly, they just wanted the reward money and the attention, knowing they would never be tried for the crime. On the racing side of things, Trickle's tragedy gave rise to another Las Vegas driver, Kurt Busch. After the shooting, the Star Nursery team in the Southwest Featherlight Tour still needed a driver. They tapped Kurt Busch to take over in Chris's place for the upcoming race at the Las Vegas Bull Ring. He had made only 7 previous starts on the tour, but Kurt managed to hang on for his first win that night. Every fan in the stands knew the circumstance and erupted in cheers as Kurt took the checkered flag. That night, Chuck Trickle said, "I knew it was meant to be. Chris was with us tonight. He was in that car with Kurt. I could feel it." And that's it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you leave a like and a comment down below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you never miss a video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.